Hello and welcome to the Waite Law podcast. I'm joined again by Harry Golding, from one of my colleagues from our family team, and we are just having a general chat today about the involvement of step-parents generally.
And new partners.
New partners, new partners. Yeah. I think more often than not, I think this is fair to say, when we are acting for somebody who's separated, there will at some point during the course of us acting be a new partner. If they weren't there at the beginning of that relationship or the reason for the relationship coming to an end, most of our clients do tend to enter into new relationships.
Yeah, particularly if it's protracted proceedings for any reason.
Yeah. And so we're often then trying to help them navigate the involvement of that new person with the children, but also with the finances, I think.
It's probably fair to say as well, isn't it, that the general sort of presumption is the courts don't want to be seen as heavy-handed with it, and they don't want to be seen as sort of prudish or trying to dissuade parties from having new family.
No, I think it's an expectation now that will happen. And in many cases, it happens quite sort of naturally and everybody finds their own way. Yeah. But because we deal with cases where it can be more extreme.
More acrimonious,
yes.
And the courts, a bit of a trigger, can't it?
Yeah, because it is really difficult if if you're not living with your children anymore or not with them full time, and somebody else is then in the house with them.
Particularly, as you say, if there was an element of it being a cause of the end of the relationship anyway. Yeah. So
there's a difficulty from the parent's point of view, the parent who's not in that new relationship, but also sometimes for the children. So we have lots of scenarios where children don't like mum or dad's new partner, and that might then impact on whether they want to spend time with mum or dad, because they don't want to spend time with a new partner.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think as well, sometimes if both parents are working parents to some extent, the new partner can also be sort of roped in a little bit to help with some of the logistics stuff like school pickups or whatever, if they're running late after work or whatever else it is. And I think that is another thing which just adds that element of uncertainty or instability for the children. And then that can be another sort of anxiety point for the children if they don't know if they're getting picked up from school by dad's new partner or by dad or whatever else it is.
And I think that then can create animosity with the other parents, which can not always on purpose but can inadvertently be passed on to the children with if that parent has a reluctance towards a new partner or if they just make a comment. I think children are very perceptive in that situation about trying to keep both their parents happy.
I mean, sometimes it can definitely come more from that side as well. The children might be absolutely happy with it, but they also know that one of their parents is not a fan of the new partner, and they don't want to upset that parent, so they kind of are quite emotionally in tune with it all, and they'll almost... That can actually in some ways be... the sticking point, because the parent who's not a fan of the partner anyway suddenly hears from the child sort of what they want to hear, and that's a reason then to raise it with the other parent.
Yeah, and I think it's for that child, if they do actually quite like their parent's new partner, they don't want to verbalise that because they feel like they're being disloyal to their other parent, and it's a really difficult situation to be in. And I think sometimes we try to talk to clients when they ask for our advice about how best to introduce the new partner. Slowly. And wherever possible, discussing it with the other parent first.
Yeah. And you do get all sorts of cases, as you say. I mean, I've had a case fairly recently where the new partner is very sort of integrated into all the arrangements, and that was father's new partner, and the mum and the new partner actually sat down for coffee before they were introduced, and so it was all very sort of like, picture perfect in terms of how it could go. But I don't think that's quite the norm.
No.
for how.
Although I think sometimes it can be a big positive, because if the new partner can take over some of the handovers for the children, if there's still animosity between the other two and they can be a bit more neutral, then that can actually be really helpful, especially for the children.
Definitely.
If they're not seeing animosity between their parents.
Well, and you can also get situations where you get these blended households where the new partner maybe has children of similar age, and then that's another. On one hand, it's another thing to navigate, but also it might be that sort of thing which actually gives a bit more informality to the children. So, if they enjoy each other's company, it might be that sort of thing which makes sort of, I don't know, what's the word, sort of melts the ice, or takes some of the
I think
pressure
if there's
out of
other
it.
children there, as long as they get on with them, it just diffuses things a bit, doesn't it? But it is it's a really tricky situation. And we also have the other extreme where when one parent might not be around and there's a new partner who might have been in that child's life for quite a long time, more time than their biological parent, but they don't have any legal rights over that child because they're not their biological parent, and there's
no parental responsibility or whatever.
And so they haven't got that can make them feel quite vulnerable. And so we were talking earlier about, there are ways that you can get parental responsibility. Yeah,
sort of ways of formalising what is already the sort of situation on the ground. And I think it is very case specific, isn't it? Because there'll be some cases where both the biological parents are still completely involved in the children, and that's obviously then going to be inappropriate for there to be any suggestion that the new partner has anything other than a sort of an informal care, helps out with a bit of caregiving here and there. But if you've got a situation where one of the parents is sort of completely out of the picture, and sometimes I think I've had it on a recent case where the new partner and the sort of primary carer are having another child together, there can be this element of actually, it helps sort of bind everyone into the same cohesive whole if you've got some of this sort of formality to it.
Yeah. So I would say quite rarely, we will, in that scenario, be asked to apply for a step-parent adoption, so that the other parent is then effectively removed from any involvement with the child. It doesn't happen very often, but in scenarios where one parent has had very little to do with the child and is not in the child's life anymore, and as the child has got older, they can obviously voice their wishes and feelings and say, well, I want this person to adopt me. And particularly in cases like you said where they've got children between them, it just binds everybody together. But it is still quite rare, I would say.
Yeah, I've never done I've never done an adoption case, full stop. But
I've done
think
a
that's
couple.
probably your
I've done a couple.
your area of expertise.
But it's
more than mine.
But it is, it doesn't happen very often, and the situation, is usually quite extreme. I think the last one I did, the parties wanted to move abroad as well, so there was a slightly an added complication.
And presumably in cases like that as well, the premise will be that the other parent is already not that actively involved, but they will
wasn't involved at all.
But they will still be normally consulted before any adoption order is made. So.
Yeah, they were aware of it. It wasn't. They need to be made aware of it, but they didn't object. So it was relatively straightforward. But it's quite unusual. But step parents can apply for parental responsibility because I think the other thing is if the other parent isn't around, so the only other person with parental responsibility isn't in the child's life, if the parent who has got parental responsibility is abroad or they're away for work, and the step parent is,
it can add some odd sort of distortions to what happens in that situation. Or even if you had a situation where the primary carer were to die or become long-term incapacitated, you might end up with a situation where the other parent on paper has parental responsibility, but actually there's someone else who's
far closer to the child,
closer and more involved with their lives.
But
there are sort of halfway houses as well, aren't there? To, as you say, rather than just the adoption route, you can get other types of orders, just dealing with parental responsibility point rather than the sort of whole hog of adoption.
Well, and the benefit to that is it doesn't take the parental responsibility away from the other parent if if they are going to be involved.
It's
It just means it's just
future,
an additional person who can help and make decisions, or say if there's a medical emergency, then somebody can, they can step in.
Yeah. I think that, I suppose the other point we should probably talk about as well is the other angle we get this asked about is how it can affect a new partner can affect the financial side of things as well. And in divorce, new partners inherently you don't automatically have to make that part of your disclosure. You don't have to tell the other person, or it's not factored into the negotiations unless and until they start cohabiting. You can have all sorts of arguments about what counts as a cohabitation if it's a grey area. But I would say, I don't know what your experience is, even where parties are cohabiting, where the new partner is cohabiting, the relevance of it is really only on a sort of day-to-day basis. That your expenditure, are you sharing household bills? It's not kind of, the other party's responsibility to provide financially for them is just passed on to this new partner.
I think that's where people get confused. The responsibility doesn't suddenly pass on.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, because obviously if you're living with somebody, as we spoke about in an earlier podcast, and you separate, you haven't got the same protections you have got against the person you were, married to. Yeah. So it would be unfair.
And the marriage still needs to play out until. Yeah. Obviously, that changes a lot though if you then if one of the parties remarried the new partner, and that sort of is something I think most family lawyers would advise clients against if they're live financial proceedings.
Absolutely.
But hopefully the original divorce pleas are not lasting so long
that they feel that they need to rush
into
into marriage at the same time. Yeah, I think we also do find as well when somebody is living with a new partner and they're being asked to provide that financial disclosure, we'll get clients saying, well, I don't know. I don't know what their financial position is because we don't really talk about it. And it is quite hard to push that further, which I think can be frustrating if you're acting for the person who isn't living with somebody.
Yeah, and if the new partner is very wealthy and is providing for all sorts of lifestyle improvements.
That can be very frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the main things to sort of be aware of in terms of just general family law is that point we first mentioned, that if a new partner arrives on the scene halfway through negotiations, it can just be a bit of a destabilising force, and just to be aware of that. For example, I've seen it go very wrong where a client has brought their new partner to court with them sort of for moral support, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But if the new partner is a bit too involved in everything and they meet the other party at the door or whatever, it can all just be a bit not how you'd want things to have gone down.
Yeah, I think that's part of when we talk to people about the Greek chorus, which can often be your friends down the pub, your parents, other people who've been through divorce. And then if you get a new partner, they will be part of that because everybody's got an opinion and they're trying to help you and tell you what happened to them or what they think should happen. But actually it's quite hard to listen to all those different opinions.
Yeah.
And I think if you've entered into a new relationship, you're more likely to listen to what they're saying. Yeah. Which can just muddy the water and make it more difficult to then agree things. As we said at the beginning of this, people do tend to enter into new relationships quite quickly after they've separated.
And it's not something you don't want to let you don't want to let the tail wag the dog. It's in like if just because you still have ongoing matters that haven't yet been resolved, you shouldn't be just choosing not to move on with your life. But it's more about if that does happen, managing it properly, just so that it doesn't lead to sort of fallout or additional legal expense, which is one of the things, if it breaks down negotiations that were quite close to settling and then suddenly you're sort of back at square one,
that's a lot of money you could have spent on holidays.
Exactly that, yeah.
Thank you for joining me, Harry, and we'll see you in the next episode.